Behind the Line, episode 54. I'm your host, KC. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to click the notification bell so you receive all notifications from the channel. I appreciate all of you that have already done so. Tuesday night, we saw the first showdown between the future and the past of the NBA. Well, I'm not going to go that far and call him LeBron James the past. He's still playing at an extremely high level at 35 years old. Actually, right now, I think he's second only to Giannis as the most valuable player in the league. But Tuesday night, we saw the first matchup between LeBron James and Zion Williamson. Two guys who will draw constant comparisons over the next couple of years. And the game did not disappoint. The only thing disappointing about that game was the damn 9 o'clock tip-off Central Time. I wish the NBA would do something about these big game, late game tip-offs. I guess they're not thinking about those of us who, got to be up early for work or who spent all day, Fat Tuesday, downtown drinking, making it even more difficult to stay up to midnight to watch the conclusion of this game. But anyway, it was a close game throughout between the Pelicans and the Lakers. Los Angeles ended up pulling away in the fourth quarter, got the 9-point win. All night long, though, it seemed like it was a battle of one-upsmanship between Zion and LeBron. Zion would make a big play, and then LeBron would go down to the other end of the floor, do the same thing. Back and forth, back and forth. At halftime, LeBron James had 15 points on 7 of 11 shooting, 4 rebounds. Zion had 17 points on 6 of 10, 4 rebounds. LeBron finished that game with 40 points, Zion 29. Until LeBron James retires, both he and Zion Williamson are going to draw constant comparisons. Over the first 13 games of his career, LeBron averaged 17.6 points, 7 rebounds. The Cavaliers were 4-9. Zion's first 13 games, averaging 23.3, 7 rebounds. New Orleans is 7-6. At some point, if Zion can stay healthy, I think we're going to see a sort of passing of the torch moment between him and LeBron James. Yes, LeBron James is not going to pass the leader of the NBA torch to his own teammate Anthony Davis. He's going to pass it to Zion Williamson. AD is supremely talented, but his personality prevents him from becoming a megastar. He isn't the type of guy that has the capability to lead the NBA. There have been very few players who entered the NBA as a massive superstar before they even stepped on the court. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron, and now Zion Williamson. It tends to happen about once a generation. The Lakers and Pelicans have been involved in this kind of shadow rivalry for the past 2 years or so due to the whole Anthony Davis situation. The rivalry kind of died down last summer, but I can see it restarting now. But this time, instead of happening in the front office, it's happening on the court. Zion and LeBron are going to be on-court rivals for the next couple of years. And it began Tuesday night. LeBron is going to be the winner of the rivalry short term. But eventually, Zion Williamson and the Pelicans are going to be the long-term winner. And the winner of the Anthony Davis trade. I continue to be impressed with Zion Williamson with each passing game, even though he's only played 13 games. It's a small sample size. Even though David Griffin and Alvin Gentry has stated several times that this is Drew Holiday's team, Zion Williamson is the clear leader of the New Orleans Pelicans. This team goes as Zion goes. In 13 games, Zion has had a negative plus-minus 3 times. The Pelicans are 0-3 in those games. In the games where he's had a positive plus-minus rating, New Orleans is 7-3. So when Zion is playing well, the Pelicans are winning 70% of their games. There's a noticeable problem, though, with this Pelicans team that I first noticed a week or two ago against Milwaukee. I noticed it again Tuesday night against the Lakers. They struggle against bigger teams, especially late in games. Dwight Howard was a problem several times in that game. And if the Pelicans aren't getting spacing and knocking down open shots, the offense tends to become stagnant. They tend to get into this ISO ball. Lonzo Ball and Drew Holiday were absolutely god-awful against the Lakers. And JJ Redick didn't get off one fucking shot the whole game. How the best three-point shooter on your team takes 0 shots in 20 minutes is beyond me. It's absolutely fucking inexcusable. I saw something in the media Wednesday morning that kind of bothered me a little bit. After the game, it was either on the court, maybe in the locker room. I can't remember. But after the game, around the media, Brandon Ingram yelled that Zion Williamson was the GOAT. There was some speculation in the media that Brandon Ingram said this in jest, that he could possibly be starting to become a little bit jealous of all the success and the media attention that Zion Williamson is receiving. B.I. is the all-star on this team, so there was some talk and speculation that with Ingram being the best or the second best player in New Orleans, that he could be getting a little pissed off about the media constantly covering Zion. I understand where this speculation is coming from, and it could be a possibility, but I don't think this is the case at all. For starters, Brandon Ingram is a shy dude. He doesn't like media attention. That was one of the reasons that he was so happy to be leaving Los Angeles and the media circus that surrounds LeBron James. Also, Zion really isn't too keen on the media hyping him up either. He rarely does post-game interviews by himself. When a reporter is heaping praise on Zion, he immediately shifts the focus of the interview and starts to praise the team instead. Secondly, and this is just my opinion here, I'm not stating fact, but I think there's real tension between Brandon Ingram and LeBron James. I think that the trade talks all last season pissed Brandon Ingram off. Rumors about LeBron wanting him traded off the team. I don't think the relationship between B.I. and LeBron is on good terms. I think him calling Zion the GOAT in front of the media was praising Zion Williamson while at the same time throwing a little bit of shade at LeBron James since everyone calls him the GOAT. Anyway, I think we're on the cusp of a real rivalry between New Orleans and the Lakers that could go on for the next couple of years, as long as Anthony Davis stays on this team. They'll play again Sunday night in New Orleans, and in my opinion, I think they're going to face off in the first round of the playoffs. I know Adam Silver in the NBA front office is salivating at the possibility of a Pelicans-Lakers playoff series. There's already this rivalry kind of brewing. You'd have LeBron versus Zion, Anthony Davis versus his old team, the young core of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Josh Hart against the team that traded him away. The stories in that series will write themselves. It'd be captivating television. Probably would be the highest rated first round playoff series in NBA history. All right, let's get to the Houston Rockets. When the Rockets traded Clint Capela right around the trade deadline, I came on this podcast and said that trade was a monumental mistake for Houston. I wasn't a fan of the trade at all. The Rockets are committing to this small ball lineup for the rest of the season. To me, it felt like it was a desperation move by Daryl Morey, who is likely to join Mike D'Antoni in the unemployment line once the Rockets season ends. But one player in Houston who has benefited the most from this small ball lineup and the space in the middle that's no longer occupied by Clint Capela is Russell Westbrook. Westbrook's one of the most polarizing players in the NBA for a couple of reasons. He doesn't give a fuck. He speaks his mind. And he plays the game the way he wants to play it, no matter how much the fans or how much the media criticize him for it, whether it's working or not. Westbrook could be shooting 30% from the three-point line. He doesn't give a fuck. He's still going to throw up three-pointers, whether the fans or media criticize him for it or not. Something has changed in Westbrook's game since Clint Capela was traded. Since the trade, the Rockets have a 118 offensive rating, second in the NBA. Fourth best net rating at 8.3. The duo of Westbrook and James Harden before the trade had a net rating of 5.3. Since the trade, it's a staggering 18.3 net rating. Much of that improvement has to do with the fact that Russell Westbrook has completely changed his game. He's taking 2 fewer three-point shots a game. Those pull-up threes that he's been known for throughout his career have completely disappeared. He's actually taking the least amount of three-point shots per game since the 2011 season. Now that Capela is no longer hanging around in the paint, Westbrook's taking 4 more shots within 10 feet or so of the rim, hitting him 62%. The Houston Rockets have gone from a team dominated by James Harden to a team dominated by Russell Westbrook. And it's working. The Rockets are 6-2 since they traded away Clint Capela. The small ball lineup that they have committed to is working. For now. This type of lineup is difficult to defend in the regular season. But I still believe that the Rockets are going to sorely miss Capela once the playoffs begin. In the regular season, teams don't have time to prepare to defend against a lineup like this that you don't see on a night-to-night basis. But in the playoffs, their focus is solely on stopping it. There's nothing else they have to worry about. The game slows down in a 7-game series, and your weaknesses become exploited. What's the Houston Rockets' biggest weakness? They've got no size. No one in their rotation is above 6'7". They can't rebound. Houston's been out-rebounded in every game since Clint Capela was traded. In their 2 losses, they were out-rebounded by an average of 17 a game. In the playoffs, where every possession matters, that's going to be a huge problem. Game slows down. There are less possessions. Giving up offensive rebounds is the equivalent to a turnover. Even though the Capela trade's looking good now, in the long run, I think it's going to blow up in the face of Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni. Russell Westbrook's blossoming now. But the question I have is he going to continue to play the game this way? Because once the pressure of the playoffs enters the picture, I think that Russell Westbrook's going to return to form, become the guy that we've seen him throughout his career. The guy that takes multiple bad shots a game. The guy who hogs the ball, doesn't get his teammates involved. This Rockets team's going to get dominated against the bigger teams in the postseason. They were terrible defensively when they had Clint Capela. Without him, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. When we talk about the Houston Rockets, we always talk about three-point shooting. We talk about this prolific, high-scoring offense. What people don't realize, 2 years ago when they made it to the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors, they ranked 6th in defensive rating, 7th in points a game. They were a great defensive team that year. This season, they're 15th in defensive rating, 21st in points a game. The Capela trade may work out in the short term, but come mid-April, the praises on this move are going to come to a halt. If the season ended today, Houston would be matched up against Oklahoma City, and they would lose that series. Steven Adams would have a field day against this defense. Even if they matched up against a Utah or a Dallas, I couldn't see the Rockets beating either one of those teams. All right, let's switch gears to the NFL for a second. Let's talk about a couple of NFL quarterbacks. I'm going to start with Baker Mayfield. The Browns are looking for a veteran backup quarterback for next season, and rumors are they're interested in going after Chase Daniel. They're looking for someone to kind of be a mentor for Baker Mayfield, and a guy like Chase Daniel would be a good fit. Been a backup for Alex Smith, backup for Drew Brees. He mentored Mitchell Trubisky last season, though Trubisky was god-awful, so that might be a bad example. But Cleveland head coach Kevin Stefanski has said that Baker Mayfield's going to be the Browns starter in 2020. as he should be. So they're definitely not looking for someone to come in and compete for the starting quarterback position. Thus far, I like what I'm hearing this all season from Kevin Stefanski. I was a huge critic of Freddie Kitchens last season. I thought he was unorganized, thought he was in way over his head. To be honest, he had absolutely no business being a head coach in the NFL. Kevin Stefanski's different. He's organized, detail-oriented. He's humble. These are all things his former boss and head coach Mike Zimmer had to say about him at the NFL Combine this week. These are all things that have been missing in the Cleveland Browns organization for many, many years. Mike Zimmer also stated that Stefanski isn't afraid to ask for help, something Freddie Kitchens was obviously unwilling to do, even though he was the most inexperienced head coach in the league. But something interesting caught my attention that came out of Cleveland this week. This offseason, the Browns' main focus is to get Baker Mayfield slimmer and trimmer. Basically, they're wanting to get him in shape. So what this means to me is that Baker Mayfield was out of shape last season. That's a real problem. Here's the thing. I'm a lifelong diehard fan of the New Orleans Saints. You know the one thing that I never worry about in the offseason? Whether or not Drew Brees is going to show up to training camp in shape. I know with 100% certainty that come July, Drew Brees will be in game shape and ready to go. Same could be said for Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Patrick Mahomes, damn near every other quarterback in the league. In his second season in the NFL, Baker Mayfield shows up to work out of shape, unfocused. Which tells me that there's a work ethic problem. There's a lack of focus. Those are two things that can't be fixed by a coaching staff. That's got to be fixed from within. Only Baker Mayfield can fix that problem. Coaching, they can fix mechanics, they can fix footwork, throwing motion. They can't fix your character. And work ethic is a sign of good character, or in this case, bad character. In Rappaport of NFL.com reported that ahead of the 2019 season, Baker Mayfield was focused on bulking up. He wanted to get bigger, stronger. The problem is, the only place he got bigger was his fucking gut. Looked like he had a beer gut for most of the season. Only off-season workouts he was doing is lifting his beer from his lap to his mouth. Unfortunately for him, that's not the best way to build muscle. What was Baker Mayfield doing all of last offseason? He was filming fucking television commercials. You couldn't watch an NFL game last season without seeing his face on your fucking TV screen. If Drew Brees wants to do a commercial, got no problem with it. Russell Wilson, go ahead. But Baker Mayfield? He hasn't accomplished a fucking thing in the NFL. Lucky for him, his star has fallen so far because of his shitty 2019 season that he won't have to worry about doing any commercials this offseason. Let's get to Cam Newton. When the Panthers hired Matt Rule, I said on this podcast that they needed to trade Cam Newton, clear that $19.1 million in cap space, and go after a quarterback with the 7th pick in the draft. It only makes sense. You got a young rookie head coach, a franchise that is looking to rebuild. You don't hold on to the guy that's missed the last 16 games. It was a staple of the previous era, the Ron Rivera era. In his introductory press conference back in January, Matt Rule was non-committal towards keeping Cam Newton. Now his tune has appeared to change just a little bit. He said that he absolutely expects Cam Newton to be on the roster in September, but he also wouldn't rule out trading him, wouldn't name him as his definite starter, and didn't rule out drafting a quarterback. My question is why? Why are Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers dragging their feet with this decision? It makes 0 sense to keep Cam Newton from a financial perspective and from a perspective that you're an organization looking to rebuild. There are a lot of Cam Newton haters out there, especially down here on the Gulf Coast where there are redneck Alabama fans everywhere. You can't walk into a fucking Starbucks in July to get a coffee without hearing that cringe Roll Tide. The rednecks down here use Roll Tide like Hawaiians use Aloha. I'm one of the few people that live down here that's not a Cam Newton hater. I think the guy is extremely talented and deserves a fresh start in the league as a starter somewhere else. But it's not worth it to keep him in Carolina. It's not like we're talking about a team hiring a rookie head coach and they're contemplating walking away from an Aaron Rodgers or a Big Ben or even a guy like Carson Wentz. Cam Newton's been in the NFL since 2011. In 8 seasons, only 3 times has he ended the season with a winning record. 4 playoff appearances, one of which was 2014 when Carolina finished 7-8-1 and backed into an NFC South title. They actually won a playoff game that year against Arizona because Carson Palmer got hurt and fucking Ryan Lindley was the starting quarterback. Then they ended up getting trounced by Seattle in the divisional round. If you take away Cam Newton's 2015 MVP season, when Carolina went 15-1, he's got a record of 53-54-1. He's had just 1 year with over 4,000 yards passing. Completes less than 60% of his passes through his career. Never had a season where he's thrown less than 10 interceptions. At this point, at 31 years old to start next season, Cam Newton's not even a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. It just doesn't make sense for a rebuilding team with a rookie head coach to keep him around, especially when you don't know or can't even commit to him being the starter. Matt Rule says they want to focus on Cam getting healthy. Then they'll evaluate him as a starter. Do you think they would be saying that about Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Brady, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson? With the 7th pick in a draft that is loaded with quarterbacks, Carolina's in a prime position to start fresh. Trade Cam Newton. Use that $19.1 million to bring in some receivers for your young quarterback and rebuild the Panthers the right way. All right, that's all for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think of the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. I will see you guys tomorrow morning.